恭请大德圣听，为此法会，及一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死离苦得乐，速证无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death and quickly realize non
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchetoye alahati sanmiao sanputo che. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it, and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Good morning or good evening, everyone, depending on where you are. Welcome back to our exploration, of Buddhist understanding and practice based through the lens of the Medicine Master Buddha Sutra. We're going to recite Medicine Master Buddha's name next, but just let me pause and try to clear my throat before we do that. Excuse me. Okay. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life, medicine master, Buddha. 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 Medicine master does come one, medicine master does come one, medicine master does come one, Medicine Master does come one. Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Rebel Master, and all good knowing advisors, welcome back to class number 44, I believe. Let me end this slideshow and bring up today's slides. Today we will continue with our exploration of giving and generosity, and I think we can conclude with giving. So if you've been following the classes, at least on this particular topic of giving and generosity, if for me the idea of giving, don't think so much of giving as a physical giving, although physical giving is a part of giving. It doesn't define what giving is, but it is a part of giving. But I hope everyone now has the sense of not looking at giving from the traditional, when you say act of giving or generosity, you're giving something away. That's correct. But in as how we have seen from all the from the earlier suttas that the Buddha spoke about giving, up to last week, today we are exploring how the Bodhisattva gives. The common thread is always in your relationships with people. What giving does is it brings your focus into the value of the relationships the value that you put in your relationships with people. And if you do it right, if you value the people, then giving becomes spontaneous, giving becomes effortless, and giving actually is a joy. It becomes something joyful, and you want to give. So it's not the act of giving that comes first, but rather the way you see people around you. And the more you can understand the value of the relationships, in other words, understanding the value of your relationships with people, that is the Bodhisattva Path. They say that you become a Buddha not by yourself, but through saving other living beings. That means your relationship with other living beings. So if you get that right, if you understand that giving is not so much with the hands, it's not so much physical giving, but it's actually giving from the heart, and you could also say giving from the mind. If you understand that these two components are more important, then and underlining that is how you view who are the people around you, then you get really close to what giving is. So don't look at giving on the surface, which is literally giving things away, but look at how you view your relationships with people. Your level of a word that can be used is selfishness. Are your needs more important than others' needs? How do you balance what you require for yourself with what other people require? And as you get better and better in putting the Buddha's understanding in your daily life, which is your practice, then you will find that giving and being generous becomes more and more effortless and spontaneous and joyful. Yeah, joyful. Which reminds me of a story called the White Rabbit candy story. I think some of you, let me look it up. Let me see. I have to open my browser. I think some of you are familiar with what white rabbit candy is. When I was a child, it was my favorite. It was one of the reasons it was my favorite is because it is not only it is very nice, but it's wrapped with a with edible paper. The paper is made from rice starch, and you can eat that paper. Okay, so it's like a novelty when you are a child. Okay, let me show you what white rabbit candy is. Okay, this one. That's white rabbit candy. Okay, all right. So the story behind this is this was told to me by one of the senior disciples. I don't remember who was it. Dark Powers or Dharma Lai. The story is one day they walk into the dining hall of one of the monasteries. Was it Gold Mountain or CDTB? This was very, very long time ago. And in the dining hall, in everyone's place, there was a one or two pieces of this white rabbit candy. And the person who told me the story said he looked up and he saw Shifu either sitting or standing there smiling with this great big smile on his face, like a very happy smile. And what Shifu told them was, someone just gave me a very big bag of this candy, and this candy is my favorite candy. So that's my favorite, and that's why I'm giving it all to you, or something like that. And Shifu said, "Do you understand?" So ever since then, I've been trying. When I talk to children about giving, I always tell them about the best form of giving is the favorite thing that you like. What thing do you like the most? You share it with people. Yeah. If you've never tried it before, give it a try. Yeah, and then you can report back. Let me see. Okay, we have several questions today. One by Ron, and then I'm looking at the chat box right now, and she has a. Let me see. Okay, I'll thanks Miss Yap. We'll share that towards the end of the class. Okay, and all right. Before we go into our slides, if you look at your screen right now, you will see that there's an announcement. We'll be taking a break during April, so this will be the last session that we have until the first Saturday or Sunday, depending on where you are, of May. So we will resume on the 3rd or 4th of May. Excuse me while I take a shot. This is because I have several things I need to complete for the RBU, as well as I have a lot of study, research, books to read, and as well as want to take a practice break. So I think I'll make this more. It'll be an ongoing thing. Every 3-4 months, I'll take a semester break to kind of like recharge myself. Okay, if anyone has any thoughts or anything, please either just unmute your mic or you want to type in the chat box. Ron, I see your mic is unmuted. Do you have something you want to share?
Yes, Basher. I heard that I don't know if it's planned or will it come to fruition, but the 10,000 Buddha repentance occurs in April after the 11th. So I don't know, if they're actually going to broadcast that from CTTP. Actually, I'm hoping they will. I was taking another class, and the Bashir in that class mentioned something about that, but it wasn't definite. So this was working just great.
Was it Yong Fasher?
No, it was Han Yi, Y-I.
Okay.
She teaches the Shurangama Sutra class on Sundays at Ghost Age Monastery.
Okay. Let me ask. Let me find out, and I will let you know.
Yeah.
Um. So so your point? Do you have a point? Like, is it a good thing that we don't have classes in April, or are you?
Yeah, it just fits in really well because, like, I don't know if anybody who's remember, but when you bow the 10,000 Buddha repentance, it's for 3 weeks. It's straight, 3 weeks straight. So we would have to, miss class or miss your class in order to accompany this thing. I mean, we'd be pretty tired after that day. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Bowing Saturdays and Sundays. I mean, it's like it's 3 straight weeks of bowing. So I don't know if they plan to. My what I was trying to say is that I don't know if for sure that they're going to actually have it broadcasted.
okay. Got it. Um. Let me find out, and
Okay.
yeah. Okay. I realized I just gave the wrong date. Okay. It's so hard to write with a mouse. Okay. So I look at the wrong month. It shouldn't be third or fourth of May. It should be 1st or 2nd of May. Yeah. Thanks, Lucy, and thanks, Chui, for alerting me. Right? Let me see. March, April. Yeah, it should be 1st or 2nd of May instead of 3rd or 4th of May. Okay, let's continue with our slides. So right now where we are is we are exploring what a bodhisattva on the first ground does. What is a bodhisattva on the first ground? That's a beginner bodhisattva. Beginner is not the right word, because if you compare a bodhisattva on the first ground to people like us, there's no comparison. It's such a big difference. But compared to all other bodhisattvas, he or she would be like a first ground bodhisattva, beginner bodhisattva. So we are there, and right now we are going to how the bodhisattva is able to give. So it says disciples, and this is from the Avatamsaka Sutra, from the Flower Adornment Sutra. It says, disciples of the Buddha, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva accords with such great compassion and great kindness. Using deep, profound thought, at the time of dwelling on the first ground, he gives away objects without grudge or stinginess. Seeking the Buddha's great wisdom, he cultivates great renunciation. Whatever he possesses, he is able to give it away completely. If you see the word renunciation here, there are several meanings people usually associate with the word, but in this context, it means being able to give up, give away, not being attached. All right, next slide. That is, such objects as wealth and granaries, gold, silver, jade, and coral, jewel ornamental articles to decorate the body, elephants, horses, chariots, and conveyances, servants and citizens, cities, towns, and villages, parks, groves, pavilions with vistas, wives, concubines, sons, daughters, the inner and outer retinues, and all remaining enjoyable possessions, his head, eyes, hands, and feet, his blood, flesh, marrow, and all parts of his body, begrudging none of them, in order to seek all Buddha's great wisdom. This is called the Bodhisattva who dwells upon the first ground's accomplishment of great renunciation or great giving. This paragraph that we just read is the principle is that the Bodhisattva is able to give anything. There is nothing that the Bodhisattva would say, hold on a minute, can I afford, or wouldn't this harm me or something? The Bodhisattva doesn't think that way. But that's also because of the Bodhisattva's level of accomplishment and practice, which is very different from ours. So for some of us, we may not truly comprehend how the Bodhisattva can give this way, but that's just because we are not there yet. All right. Disciples of the Buddha. The Bodhisattva, using this kind of compassionate mind of great renunciation, wishing to rescue and protect all living beings, further enlarges the scope of his search for all worldly and world-transcending beneficial matters, never being tired or weary. Therefore, he immediately attains the accomplishment of an untiring, unwearied mind. Once he has obtained an untiring, unwearied mind, there's a typo there, should be M-I-N-D, mind, concerning all sutras and shastras, his mind is not nervous or afraid. Because he is not nervous or afraid, he immediately attains to the accomplishment of the wisdom of all sutras and shastras. Once he has acquired that wisdom, he is skilled at estimating what should be done and what should not be done. Towards all superior, average, and inferior living beings, as is appropriate and according to his strength, in accord with what they like, he acts in that way. Therefore, this Bodhisattva attains to the accomplishment of worldly wisdom. Once he has accomplished worldly wisdom, he knows the times and he knows the capacities, and using the adornments of repentance and reform, he diligently cultivates the path of benefiting self while benefiting others. Therefore, he accomplishes there's a typo. Therefore, he accomplishes the adornments of repentance and reform. In the midst of these practices, he diligently cultivates escape without retreating or deflecting, and accomplishes the power of solidity. Once he has acquired the power of solidity, he diligently makes offerings to all Buddhas. With regards to the Buddha's teaching Dharma, he is able thus to speak and practice. So you see, the Bodhisattva doesn't do things I can't even picture the word in my mind. I know what it means.
Half-heartedly, Faster.
No, not half-heartedly. It's haphazardly. Oh my God, I can't spell it in my mind, so I can't pronounce it well. I only have like a picture. Okay, he doesn't do things. He does things in a step-by-step manner. He knows that you have to start here first, and then you do it. Then it will naturally lead to a next level of giving, and then when one skill is perfected, then naturally he can move on to the other skill. No, it is not. Okay, yes, Gwen, that's the word. How do you pronounce that? Say that again.
Haphazardly.
Okay, I can't really hear. Is H-A-P-H-A.
Haphazardly. Faster is called haphazardly.
Haphazardly. Okay, that's a word that I never use. Okay, haphazardly. So the Bodhisattva is not like that at all. Okay, he does things step by step, which is why I wanted to remind everyone that if you are really interested in giving, as you are practicing giving, to look at your relationships with people, and in your heart and your mind, as you're doing the giving, what's behind it. All right? Okay. Or even better, in everyday life, just look at your relationships with people and you work on that. Okay, let's move on. Okay, Ron has a question on one of the slides. It says, what is the power of solidity? That means nothing can move you. What you want to set out to do on the path to become a Buddha, nothing can hold you back. Nothing can change your mind, not even yourself. Okay, so that's the power of solidity. Okay, let's continue. Disciples of the Buddha. The Bodhisattva in that way accomplishes 10 kinds of dharmas of purification of all grounds. That is faith, compassion, kindness, renunciation, non-weariness, knowing all sutras and shastras, skill at understanding worldly dharmas, repentance and reform, the power of solidity, making offerings to all Buddhas, relying on the Buddhas to cultivate. Disciples of the Buddha, when the Bodhisattva has come to dwell on this ground of happiness, by means of the power of great vows, he comes to see many Buddhas. Okay, how many Buddhas does he see? Okay, the sutra actually answers that. The sutra says, that is, he sees many hundreds of Buddhas, many thousands of Buddhas, many hundreds of thousands of Buddhas, etc., etc. Okay, you get the idea. Many hundreds of thousands of millions of Nayutas of Buddhas. And completely, with a great mind and a profound mind, he worships and reveres them, attends upon and makes offerings to them, using clothing, food and drink, bathing and medicines, all of the necessities of life, completely offering them up. He makes offerings as well to all the members of the Sangha, and taking these good roots, he transfers them all to unsurpassed Bodhi. Okay. This is just my interpretation. Okay. So you there's no backing behind what I'm going to say. I seeing many hundreds of Buddhas, that I see it two ways. One is literally they are able to encounter accomplished Buddhas, people who have become Buddhas. The other one is they are able to see the Buddha nature in all living beings, meaning in every living being that they encounter, they understand that this person is going to become a Buddha. And it, what does that mean? Well, say if we go back in time, and we to the time where the Buddha, before he became the Buddha, and he realized that he realized the middle way, meaning that, okay, up to that point, the Buddha, what he was trying to do in trying to end birth and death, in trying to find enlightenment, was he was subjecting the body through a lot of very, very difficult things, like not eating or eating one sesame seed a day, all kinds of hardship to the body, thinking that that was the way he could end birth and death. So when he took the body to the extreme, he said, there is no way anyone can go beyond what I did. And if I go any further, then I will die and all my effort will be in vain. He says there has to be a different way. And he had a memory where when he was young and he sat under the rose apple tree or the jumbo tree and he entered dhyana, he had that memory. Then he realized that, yeah, through the mind instead of through the body. So he went into the river to bathe himself, and he climbed out of the river. And at that time, the Buddha would look very, very scary. It is said that through his stomach, he was so thin that if you look at his stomach, what you will see is his spine, because there was only skin and bones, like almost literally only skin and bones on the Buddha. So if we go back in time to that exact moment when the Buddha was coming up from the river, if you didn't know that was going to be the Buddha, go through this exercise, what would your reaction be? You see this Indian man coming up from the river, he looks, almost like, not like a living person. What would be going through your mind? Okay. And then you look at, if you knew he was going to be the Buddha, and this was the real, you knew about the Buddha story, you knew that the prince coming up from the river was going to meditate, someone was going to offer him grass and milk porridge, and that he was going to sit and meditate, and at that very spot, he was going to become the Buddha. How would you be? How would your attitude change to that freaky looking person coming up from the river? What would you do? Okay? That is one way you can understand how, when you see other living beings and you see them for their potential, for who they could be, and if you want to be a bodhisattva, you see yourself responsible for helping them achieve that aim. That is how it works. And that is how it can change your relationship with people. At the very least, if you like someone like me, you don't have the wisdom to help people, at the very least, you don't give them any afflictions at all. It means you don't hold them back from the path. Oh, okay. Let's move on. I hope that makes sense. If not, think about it. All right, let's move on. Okay, disciples of the Buddha. This Bodhisattva, because of making offerings to all Buddhas, obtains the dharmas for accomplishing living beings. Using the former two attractions, he gathers in living beings, that is, by giving and kind words. As to the latter two dharmas of attraction, because he only uses the power of faith and understanding, his practice has not yet well penetrated these. That Bodhisattva, among the 10 paramitas, emphasizes the paramita of giving. It is not that he fails to cultivate the remaining paramitas, but he only does so according to his strength and proportionately. So what this passage is trying to say is that the Bodhisattva practices all the 10 paramitas, but at his level right now, he can only perfect the paramita of giving. He is unable to perfect the other paramitas. So which is why the Bodhisattva's weapons, if you can call it that, the Bodhisattva's tools is a better word, the 4 attractions, giving, kind words, what are the 2? Let me see. Giving, kind words, acting in accordance with the teachings, and doing beneficial work. This 4. He can only perfect giving and kind words first at his level. Okay. This Bodhisattva, if he wants to renounce the home life, within the Buddha Dharma, diligently cultivates with vigor, and then can leave the home, meaning become a monastic, his wife and children, and the 5 desires. He relies upon the Thus Come One's teaching, leaves the home life, and studies the way. Okay, so this is the end of the me sharing the first ground from the Flower Dharma Sutra with everyone. Okay, right now I want to address 1 or 2 questions. One of the questions that we received on WhatsApp, I don't remember who was it, Guat Li or Siu Wong. The question was more or less, since we cannot practice pure giving, should we not give? That's one question, which the answer is a big no. No. The only way you can ever achieve pure giving is by practicing how to give. If you use the the Bodhisattva's way of giving, pure giving, what is pure giving? Pure giving is there is no mark of the giver, there is no mark of the receiver, and there is no mark of the gift. Meaning you are not attached. You don't think about how great you are when you give, or how much you're helping people. You're not thinking about the person you're helping. For example, or if I help this person, maybe this person can help me in the future, or this person is very influential, therefore I help this person, or this person is really, really poor, and if I help him, it'll make me look good. If you're not thinking about things like that, and you're not thinking about how great this gift it is that you're giving, or how valuable it is, you don't have any expectations or conditions when you give, that's called pure giving. True pure giving can only happen when you are a sage, when you become when you have actually through your practice discarded several levels of ignorance, then pure giving comes effortlessly. It is not something you have to work at. It is something that is effortless. But you can only get there if you practice giving at our level right now. If you don't practice giving at our level right now, you want to know what happens? Well, just go back to the previous slides where the Buddha talked about all the things that happen if you don't give, or the reverse of what happens if you give, and then you get your answer there. Okay, I need to take because of my throat, I've been drinking a lot of water. I need to take a 2-minute break. But before I take the break, I want to introduce Ron's question to everyone, and then you can type in the chat box to reply to Ron, or you can unmute your microphone. What is the question? Ron's question is he's reciting the Medicine Master Buddha mantra 108 times on behalf of a friend. His first question is, and Ron, you can correct me if I'm wrong. His first question is, should he recite the mantra in front of a Buddha or Bodhisattva image? That's the first question. The second question is, should he only recite in like a Buddha hall, either in a temple or like at home? But if you're lucky enough to have a Buddha altar in front of the Buddha altar, I think that's his second question. And the third question is it okay if he's multitasking? If he's cooking and he's also reciting the mantra? Okay, you type in the chat box or unmute your mic. I'm going to mute my mic while I through this short break. Okay, sorry, excuse me. Okay, sorry to keep everyone waiting. No, there's no one who wants to help Ron out? Really? Okay, Catherine says not necessary in 1 and 2. Sincerity is the key, meaning in front of a Buddha image or in a Buddha hall. Okay, let's continue with the slides, and then we'll come back and revisit this. Okay. And Miss Yap, please remind me if I forget to share what you have given. Okay, the next few slides that I have is about why giving is so important. Okay, why the Buddha would always, for the lay disciples, the Buddha would always speak about giving. Actually, if you go to most Thai temples, Sri Lanka temples, it's always about giving. Most of the Dharma talks traditionally is always about giving. Yeah. Okay. Why is giving so important? Okay. The next few slides are the relationship about giving and our practice, the other components of our practice. So there are two ways that we can look at these slides that I have. There's a name for this kind of slide. I don't remember what the names are. Is it a Venn diagram or something? If you know, type in the chat box. You can, so for example, the slide that you see, giving and virtue, there are two ways of looking at it, or two ways of explaining it. One is how giving can give rise to virtue. The second one is how giving and virtue can work together. The easiest way to understand is to look at both at the same time, meaning the complementary qualities between giving and virtue, but with giving as the foundation. Okay, so it says perfects the pair of doing what is beneficial for others and abstaining from what is harmful to them. So if you have giving together with precepts, then not only you do what is beneficial, but it also prevents you from harmful things. Gail, you have something you want to share? No? If not, I'm going to just mute you. Okay. So how does the practice of giving generate your precepts? Okay, number one, okay, this is from the Bodhisattva's point of view. This is from Nagarjuna's, this is a Shastra, meaning a Shastra is either a commentary on a sutra or a collection of, let's say like Shufu's talks on Dharma. You could say that that is a Shastra. I would classify that as a Shastra, although there is a formal classification that is part of the Tripitaka, or the canon of the Buddha's teachings. So this is from Nagarjuna's commentary on the six perfections, or the six paramitas. So what he says is that, he says, how can a Bodhisattva practice of giving generate virtue or precepts? He says, the Bodhisattva understands that failure to practice giving results in one future life to be pure and destitute. If you don't give in this life, you know, there's a big chance in your next life you'll be poor. That's what he's thinking of. That's what the Bodhisattva knows. So he says, people who are poor and destitute are usually, not usually. It says because they don't have things, they may be forced, or they may not have any choice. You know, they out of their just in order to survive, they may be driven to steal, and from stealing, this can lead to killing, and then they may be driven to lie, and they may be driven to sexual misconduct because they are not satisfied. And he says, being born poor can lead to creating the 10 unwholesome deeds, especially if you are poor and you don't understand anything about the Dharma and you don't know what the precepts are. So the Bodhisattva thinks, but with giving, one has enough of the 5 sense objects and valuable objects, so there is no need for unwholesome deeds. You don't have to go out and steal because you have enough. It says, a mind able to give is a mind that is well regulated and supple, meaning it is also able to observe the moral precepts. Okay, that's very important. A mind able to give is a mind that is well regulated and supple, meaning the qualities of someone who is very generous in wholesome ways, okay, who likes to give, to share, and is generous in wholesome ways. The very same qualities that this mind has will enable this kind of person to naturally hold the precepts well. All right? And then because one is able to observe the precepts, one becomes able to control one's mind even in the midst of circumstances involving unwholesome dharmas. So a person like this, even surrounded by unwholesome people, this person is solid, meaning, going back to Ron's question, what is solidity? This person is unmoved by or not influenced by bad behavior. And then it says, one will have merit and be able to uphold the 5 precepts and be free of unwholesome deeds. So this is how giving and virtue are complementary. Okay, what's next? giving and patience. Giving and patience perfects the pair of non-greed and non-hatred. That's very good, non-hatred. Okay, so how does this work? So Nagarjuna explains, he says, when the Bodhisattva performs an act of giving and then the recipient subjects the person to verbal abuse or makes unreasonable great demands or presses his demands at an inopportune time or seeks to obtain what he should not seek. Okay, what is this? Recently I read in one of my news feed, there was an article about a boy who wanted a car, and then the father gave him a car which was not as good as what the boy wanted, and the boy got really upset. And he said he felt ashamed because his friends have better cars, and how can his father do this to him? So that's one example of when you give, the person is ungrateful, or scolds you, something happens that because you have expectations when you give, you get disappointed. Okay, or it says the person comes to you and makes unreasonable demands, or comes at the wrong time, wakes you up at 2 a.m. and asks you for something which is not urgent. So Nagarjuna says the Bodhisattva thinks during this different when people are unreasonable, when you help them, he says, now as I'm giving, I'm wishing to search out the Buddha path. It is not the case that anyone ordered me to do this giving, as I'm doing it at my own behest, meaning at my own choice. Why should I allow myself to become angry? So after he reflects in this manner, he proceeds with the cultivation of patience. So not only is the giving voluntary, but the intention behind the giving is you want to help others, but you're not doing it to, conditional upon how people react. That's number one. So you free yourself up from your sense of well-being. Your happiness is not dependent on how the person reacts, because in all honesty, you can't control how a person reacts. You can only control your intentions and your thoughts when you give. So the Bodhisattva is very practical, it's very pragmatic. So it says, the reason for me giving is very pure, is to become a Buddha. So why allow anger or displeasure mark the giving? Okay, so Gwen says, I can't see the slides you are reading. It's still in the diagram. Yes, I'm only showing the diagram, and I don't have slides for what I'm speaking on. Yeah. Okay. So then again, the Bodhisattva things say, if someone scolds you or is abusive, like how Venerable Shariputra, he wanted to try the Bodhisattva path. This is how the story goes. Okay, he wanted to try out the Bodhisattva path. So a being, either a god or I'm not sure who, but someone with a lot more practice came to test Shariputra and asked Venerable Shariputra for his eye. And when Venerable Shariputra gave him his eye, I think it's literal. Okay, you can take it to mean literal. The person who received the eye looked at the eye, smelled the eye, and said, this eye is so smelly. I don't want the eye. I don't want this eye. He threw it to the ground and he stepped on it. And he said, give me your other eye. And poor Shariputra, thinking, oh, this is what it takes to walk the Bodhisattva path, took out the other eye and gave it to him. And he did the same thing. Apparently, after this happened, Venerable Shariputra said, oh, it's too hard to walk the Bodhisattva path. I don't know. I don't have enough wisdom to be able to explain what actually happened in this story, but it just came to my mind. So So Nagarjuna says the Bodhisattva will think this way in circumstances like that. He says, as I now cultivate giving both inward and outward things, I am able to relinquish even what is difficult to relinquish. How much the less should I be unable to have patience with what is merely an empty sound? So he looks at people's scoldings, reactions as just empty sounds. He says, if I'm not patient with it, then what I am able to give will thereby become impure. Says, if I am not patient with it, then what I am able to give will thereby become impure. It would be just as when a white elephant enters into a pool, bathes, and then, having gotten out, goes back and covers himself with dirt again. To give and yet be impatient would be just like this. Having reflected in this manner, he then carries on with the practice of patience. See, the Bodhisattva is very practical. You give to want to be pure, so you don't let anything impure affect the giving, because then you have to start over again. All your effort is wasted. Okay, so that's giving and patience. What's next? Giving and vigor. Vigor is what? Vigor is the energy or your motivation, your drive to want to give. So giving and vigor perfects the pair of generosity and learning. Okay, so how does that happen? Nagarjuna Bodhisattva says, when the Bodhisattva first brings forth the aspiration to achieve Buddhahood, his merit is not yet vast. Okay, so when you are a beginner Bodhisattva, you realize that all the other Bodhisattvas have a lot more merit than you and they can do a lot more things. So he then desires to cultivate the two kinds of giving in order to fulfill the aspirations of all beings. Because of a shortage of things to give, he seeks earnestly for valuables and Dharma with which to be able to provide for them adequately. Meaning, you want to get more blessings so that you can do more giving. Okay? Says, now when we practice giving, we find it hard because this is me speaking, not Nagarjuna Bodhisattva speaking. Says, when we practice giving, we find it hard because we may not have enough to give. Even if you want to give, say you really, really want to practice giving, but there is only so much that you can do, right? Especially if you make the vow, you want to save all living beings. Everyone you come across, you want to save. You want to do what you can. So can you imagine how much blessings you will need? You will never have enough. Okay, so Nagarjuna Bodhisattva then gives this story, and it's a very long story. We have 5 minutes left, and the next slide that I have is giving and dhyana, how giving helps meditation. I think I will keep the next slide for next time. I will take a bit of additional time today to share this story. But before that, let me look at Ms. Yap. She shared that she attended one of the classes by Chin Fanche, and he said that we should be thinking of accumulating our own good karma and not comparing with others. Basically what we are saying, what she said, Chin Fanche said, the principle is this. It says, when you practice, don't look at other people. Don't compare your giving with, say, someone who gives more. As long as you give with pure intentions, you want to help other people, and the reason behind your giving is that you want to achieve. You may have different reasons for giving. As long as your intention is good and wholesome, then you don't have to worry about how other people give. Other people may give more. Don't let that affect how you give, basically. Yeah, you can use that to inspire you, like to do more, like how the Bodhisattva looks at all the other Bodhisattvas of the other grounds. The Bodhisattva on the first ground, he looks at all the other Bodhisattvas on up to the 10th ground. He says, I want to be just like them. but he knows he can't yet, but there's a goal or intention. Basically like that. He doesn't let a better form of giving bring him down. Okay, all right. Okay, so this is a fairly long story. I'll try to make it short. Okay, this is a story about Shakyamuni Buddha in a past life, and he was a great physician king, like Medicine Master Buddha. He was a doctor, and king meaning either he was the greatest doctor or he was a doctor who was also a king. But what he did was he worked to cure everyone from their illness, and he did it because he really had pity for all living beings. Okay, but the number of people who were sick was so many that this physician king did not have the ability to rescue everyone. Yeah, and because he knew he couldn't help everyone, this gave him so much stress that he died. Okay, he died because of the stress of not being able to save everyone. So when he died, he was born in the Trimsha heaven, and then when he was born there, he thought to himself, he said, I've been born in the heavens, and now all I'm doing is consuming my blessings, and I'm in my practice, I'm not progressing from it. So he realized that being born in the heavens, although it's very blissful, he's not really helping anyone by being born in the heavens. So it is said that he used a skillful method to end his existence in the heaven. Basically, he kind of like committed suicide in the Trimsha heaven. Okay. And once he died, he was reborn as a prince in the dragon family. So the dragon king, he was born as the son of Sagara, the dragon king. And as a prince of the dragon king, he also wanted to die because he realized that it was like his life in the heavens. He had everything because he was the son of the dragon king, and he couldn't help anyone, I guess. So the story goes that he went to the king of the Garuda birds, or the golden winged birds, that if you go to the monastery at lunchtime, we make offerings to them. And why did he go to the king of the Garuda bird? Because the Garudas eat dragons. Shufu says the Garuda would slurp up dragons like noodles. So immediately the bird saw this prince and he ate him up. Okay. And this made his dragon parents really, really sad, of course. Yeah. And so when his next life, he was reborn in Jambudvipa, which is the continent of where we are in Buddhist cosmology. And he was born as a prince. So his blessings are really great. He was born as a prince of a great country. And the moment he was born, he was able to talk. That's how advanced his practice was. And the first thing he said was, he says, what does this country have? What are the treasures of this country? Can you bring it to me so that I can give it away as presents? So this naturally freaked out everyone in the palace, and everyone was so scared that they all ran away. Except one person, which is his mom. You know how they say some people only have a face that a mother could love? Well, something like that. He scared everyone by being able to speak after just being born, except his mom. So he explained to his mother, he says, I'm not a ghost. He says, why has everyone run off? I'm not a ghost. Then explained his previous lives to his mother and his intention, his pleasure in giving, and always wanting to help people. So when the mother heard this, she called everyone back, explained to them what was going on, and as this boy was growing up, he had given away everything he owned. Then he went to his father, the king, and requested for more things to give. So the father gave him his inheritance, and then he gave it all away as well. And then he saw that the people on the continent were still really poor and had really hard lives. Like really hard lives. What kind of lives? Just look at the newspaper, look at news today of the difficulty of being a human being, and you will see. So he wanted to help all these people, but he realized that he did not have enough treasures to give away. He did not have enough belongings. So he started to cry, and he kept on asking people, is there a way I can give everyone everything they need and they want? And then one of the elders said, we have heard of the existence of a precious wish-fulfilling pearl. If you have this pearl, then whatever you want, you will get. So what is this wish-fulfilling pearl? If you have read Shufu's commentaries, you will know from how Shufu explained that all dragon kings have a wish-fulfilling pearl. If you look at Chinese drawings of dragons, they're always playing with their pearl. This is the pearl. I think in reality, dragons, they don't play with their pearl. Dragons are always, Shufu say, always in samadhi. They're always concentrated. So when the Bodhisattva heard this, he told his parents that he says he wants to go to the great sea and seek this pearl that is worn on the head of the Dragon King. And so naturally, this made his parents really worried. And the parents said, no, if you go, we know we're going to lose you. So why don't we just give you everything that we have? And so you don't have to go. Then the son said, well, you may give me everything that you have, but there's still a limit to what you have. But my wish to help people is boundless. So his parents knew that his determination was so great, they couldn't restrain him or they couldn't convince him not to go. So he left. Yeah. So as he tried to cross the sea, the story goes that he and which Dragon King was this? This Dragon King that was going to see was the Dragon King that was his former father when he was born as a prince. Yeah. So he asked everyone how to get to the palace of the Dragon King, and there was only one person, a blind man, and this blind man's name was Dasa, who had actually been to that sea 7 times. And so he was willing to bring the Bodhisattva along. Okay, so this person, if you have forgotten, this person who is looking for the precious pearl is Shakyamuni Buddha in one of his earlier lives. All right. And so the story goes that this Dasa said, I have only one wish. If I take you on this journey, there's an island with golden sand, and since I'm so old, I will not survive this journey. When I die, just bury me there. The man said. So the story goes on. There's a lot of details. If you are interested, you can look up. I don't have the Jataka number. Maybe I can find it out and WhatsApp. You got everyone on WhatsApp. So basically, it was a very precarious journey. If this story gets turned into a movie, it will be kind of like Lord of the Rings, because as they cross the sea, there are storms, and I think they arrive at many different islands, like the Isle of Many Gems, and when he started out, there were a lot of he had a lot of people going with him because they wanted to support him. But when they came to different islands and saw all the different gems, everyone started becoming greedy and started collecting all the treasures except the Bodhisattva. So the Bodhisattva went on his journey. He says that hold alongside the raft. We will want to use it to go off on this other route. Okay. basically the dasa, the boatkeeper, tells the Bodhisattva, he says, there should be a steep cliff with a date tree forest branches overhanging the water. So part of the journey is not just on water, they had to go through a forest as well. And it says, when we come to this place, if a strong wind blows, the ship could be overturned and capsized. By reaching up and clinging to the dead branches, you may be able to save yourself. As I am sightless, I will likely die then. So this is the part of the adventures, or rather the difficulties of going on a journey like this. So after this storm, let me see, the Bodhisattva was all alone. He floated in deep water for 7 days. He then walked for 7 days in water the depth of his throat. He then moved for 7 days through water up to his waist. After that, he walked for 7 days through water up to his knees. Then he walked through mud for 7 days. Next, he came upon marvelous lotus flowers, which were fresh and pure and soft. And he thought to himself, these blossoms are so soft and fragile. I should enter into the empty space samadhi. And so he made his body light and then walked upon the lotus blossoms for another 7 days. Next, he came upon poisonous snakes and thought to himself, these poisonous serpents are extremely fearsome. He then entered the samadhi of loving kindness and proceeded to walk upon the heads of the poisonous snakes for 7 days. And then he finally came to the Dragon King place. But before that, he had to go through 7 sets of city walls, and in each set of city walls there were 7 successive moats, and each of the moats were filled with poisonous snakes, and there were 3 huge dragons guarding the gates. That's why I said this is, if you make it into a movie, is like Lord of the Rings. Then finally he found the Dragon King and the Queen. And for the Dragon King and Queen, it was not so long ago that they just lost the son. Yeah. So when she saw this young man coming, immediately she knew that this was his former son. Yeah, and then they talked to him and asked him, oh, where do you go after you were reborn? What happened to you? And etc. And then the Bodhisattva was able to explain to them what was going on, and then made his request for the precious pearl, and how then he had to, he recounted all his difficulty in going through the seas and everything, and finally coming back to them, but not to become their son again, but to ask for the precious pearl. So the Dragon King said to him, he said, I will now give you this pearl, but when you're about to depart from the world, you must first return it to me. He replied, with all respect, it shall be as the king instructs. So when the Bodhisattva had acquired the pearl, he flew up into space, and with the ease of extending and withdrawing his arm, he instantly arrived back in Jambudvipa. I don't understand this part of the story. It says, when you're about to depart from the world, you must first return it to me. I don't understand this part of the story because I know he went back to his current parents and he showed them the pearl, and they were not very impressed because the pearl was very small. And he explained to his parents, says, the power of the pearl resides in its supernatural qualities. It is not a function of its size. Yeah. So after that, then he was able to practice great giving and being able to fulfill everyone's wishes. So the whole point of this story that I didn't tell very well, the whole point of this story is how if your heart is really sincere in helping people, then naturally the vigor or the motivation will enable let me say it right. You will have all the motivation in the world, and nothing will be able to stop you. Okay? So which is why in the beginning of today's session, I talked about giving, but look at giving from the right reasons, meaning don't look at giving as giving by itself, but look at giving what supports giving, which is how you view your relationships with yourself and the people around you, and what your intentions are when you practice the Dharma. Then your giving will naturally accord with that. And if you have enough motivation or inspiration, say if you want to become a Bodhisattva, then that will help create the intention to... We may not have the ability right now, but you will create the right intention that will bring you there. Okay? So Tan asked for the rest of the story. Yeah, maybe I'll share it on WhatsApp. I will copy and paste it on WhatsApp. Okay? Yeah, so this is a great story. I'm sorry I couldn't tell it in a better way. Maybe one day someone can turn it into a movie. It will be an awesome movie. Actually, the sutras, the Avatamsaka Sutra has a lot of epic stories that will make really great movies that are wholesome as well. Okay, so we're going to end here today. Does anyone have, before we take a break for 1 month, does anyone have anything they need to say, share, or any questions? Sorry for taking up. Yes, Ron.
Sure.
Please. Yes.
Just a quick question. You know, this giving and vigor, is that a principle? And, you know, just like the one before, giving and virtue, giving and patience. And there's probably more that will follow in the future lectures. But are these principles?
If you look at it as a teaching or as a theory, principle might be a word for it. But I think what you want to aim for is an experience.
Okay.
I think you want to see this in yourself. Examine your own giving. Now that you have an idea of how, for example, giving and vigor can work, or giving and patience, then try to look for it in your own experience. Because if it's external, like a what do you use? Do you say principle?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you see it as a principle, then it's external. It's outside of you.
Okay.
So it's just a teaching. But if you see it happening internally, then it becomes Dharma. It becomes your reality, which is what you want. So to answer your question, yes, but don't leave it as principle. The whole point of me sharing all this is so that we can practice it and make it part of ourselves, or see it within ourselves. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you. I'll think about it, and then I'll get back with you maybe in the next lesson if I have a question.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay, if not, let's do dedication of merit. Let me end this. Okay, just to give you a heads up, what's next that I have not shared is giving and dhyana, or concentration, and then after that is giving and wisdom. So it's basically giving and the 6 parameters. Okay, let me end this slideshow. Okay, let's do dedication of merit. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see How hands and hearts can find in giving unity. May our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, let's do 3 bows to the Buddha. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Bowing respect to the Venerable Master. Second bow.
Third bow.
Third bow. Half bow. Okay, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We will see you in May. All right, 1st or 2nd of May. Okay, Amitofo.